This video is all about how to get the most out of your fall garden. Let's go. Hey friends, it's Kendall, your joyful farmer. When we think about gardening, spring and summer usually get all the attention, but the fall garden can be amazing and productive as well. Fall can be an ideal time to grow, especially in warm climates like much of the southern US. After enduring extreme summer heat, both plants and gardeners can benefit from cooler temperatures and reduced pest pressure. Today I'm going to give you 5 simple steps to help you maximize your fall garden no matter where you're growing. You may want to take notes as this is an information-heavy video, and stick around until the end because I'm going to share with you a fall garden calendar customizable to your location to get you started with what to plant when. So why would you want to garden in the fall in the first place? In hot regions, summer can be too intense for many plants to thrive. For many of us, fall offers a second chance to grow, and often in much more pleasant conditions. Many areas can even grow crops well into the winter with the right planning. Step 1, know your first frost date. In spring, we base our seed starting around our last estimated frost date, but to plan your fall garden, you need to know your average first frost date. This is the first date in the fall that you're likely to experience a frost. Part of me is always looking forward to this date after a long, hot summer. This varies by a specific location, but it's only an estimate based on past years. For example, in North Texas, frost usually hits us around November 15th, though it could come as early as the latter part of October or as late as December. Online tools like Farmer's Almanac will help you find your local frost dates by zip code. Step 2, understand fall growth conditions. Shorter fall days mean slower plant growth. If you're growing crops like cauliflower, you're going to want to give them extra time to mature. The further you are from the equator, the shorter and less intense the sunlight becomes as winter approaches. Fall and winter are generally a much slower pace in the garden. Step 3, learn plant cold tolerance. Different plants handle cold differently. Frost-tender plants are damaged at 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 degrees Celsius. These are things like tomatoes, peppers, squash, melons, and okra. Then we have frost-tolerant plants. These can survive light frost of around 29 degrees Fahrenheit or -2 degrees Celsius. These are carrots, beets, potatoes, rutabagas, turnips, and snap peas. Root crops may actually keep growing even if their foliage is damaged. Then there's frost-hardy plants. Frost-hardy plants can survive 28 degrees Fahrenheit or -2 degrees Celsius and lower. These are things like broccoli, cauliflower, and radishes. And then you have some that can endure down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit or -6 degrees Celsius or even colder. These are things like spinach, kale, and garlic. And leeks. I love leeks. It's really important to keep plant cold tolerance in mind as you're planning your fall garden. Step 4, use frost protection when needed. You can actually extend your growing season into the fall simply by covering plants during cold snaps. You can use things like clear plastic to create a mini greenhouse effect, or you can cover plants on cold nights with things like frost fabric, cardboard boxes, blankets, or even Rubbermaid tubs. Just make sure that the plant's leaves don't have direct contact with the cover because that can result in frost damage. Step 5. This is the most time-consuming but also most important part of planning a fall garden, and that's choosing wisely what to grow. There's always some risk in gardening, especially in the fall, but informed planning makes a really big difference. For a longer season, if your frost date is still far off, you can continue to grow warm season crops into the late summer and fall. If you can keep your pepper and tomato plants going through the summer, they'll often start producing again in the early fall when it cools off. You can also start seeds for fast maturing crops like bush beans, summer squash, and cucumbers mid-summer. Just check the days to maturity on the varieties to make sure that they'll give you a harvest before the frost. Just a small note here that fall tomatoes and watermelons, to me, tend to have less sweetness compared to the summer ones. Fall is perfect, however, for cold hardy crops. Brassicas like broccoli, cauliflower, and kale Lettuce and spinach and root veggies absolutely thrive. They not only tolerate cold, but they often taste better after they've had a bit of light frost. Plus, they require much less maintenance. They have lower water needs, fewer pests, and there's less frequent harvesting on them. When you're transplanting out cool-loving veggies in late summer, shade cloth can be a huge benefit to keeping the plants and soil cooler. Now, there are a couple of challenges involved with fall growing. Pests still exist. Though the numbers start to go down, pests like grasshoppers and cucumber beetles can still pose a serious threat in the early fall. You can address this by protecting young plants, especially transplants. There's nothing more sad than having your baby plants disappear because grasshoppers or caterpillars from moths had a feast. Also, seed starting can be tricky. Indoor seed starting works great in hot weather and gives you a head start. It makes it easier to keep the environment cooler with air conditioning, and it keeps pests from devouring plants. The same grow light setup that you use in the late winter and early spring can be used in the fall. Many fall crops like brassicas can be started indoors in July and August. Anything sown in July and August is going to generally require special attention when it comes to water. Here in North Texas, we have to water seeds twice per day in order for them to germinate well in the heat of the summer. Cold-tolerant veggies, however, prefer cooler soil to germinate. Seeds like peas, radishes, lettuce, carrots, and beets can be direct sown, but it's best to wait until the high temperatures drop at least down into the 80s Fahrenheit. I typically wait until soil is 65 degrees Fahrenheit or below to start sowing cool veggies so that I can get a better germination rate on them. I'll sometimes germinate my seeds indoors, and then I'll take the containers as soon as I see that the seeds are germinating. I will put them outside on a shaded patio or in a shaded area. And I sometimes will even put them in a kiddie pool so that I can keep the containers bottom watered to make sure they have lots of hydration when it's really hot toward the end of our summer. I found that growing them outside works just fine. They'll just grow a little bit slower than the brassicas that I have growing indoors under a grow light. To help you get started with your fall garden planning, I do have a general seed starting calendar for the fall. It's linked in the video description below. It's based on your specific estimated first frost date in the fall. I do also have a calculator linked in the document that you can use to help you calculate your dates for each week leading up to your first frost date in the fall. Then you can print the cheat sheet and use it to help you group your seeds by week. This will help keep you on track and help you to not be quite as overwhelmed starting seeds and transplanting them out in your fall garden because you'll already have the dates all laid out for you. And it will help you to time things well and maximize the production of your fall and winter garden. So I just want to run through the calendar to give you an idea of when you will start seeds. So 20 to 24 weeks before your estimated first frost date, there are some seeds that you can start indoors to transplant out later. These are going to be warm-loving crops including basil and tomatoes, and cool-loving crops like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, and you can also start rutabaga. If you're in a cooler zone that has a shorter growing season, you'll probably want to skip the tomatoes and basil, or you can look for shorter days to maturity varieties of tomatoes, like cherry tomatoes. But if you're in a frost-free area, you could also potentially add peppers and eggplants to this list. All of this is on the fall calendar cheat sheet, so feel free to print it out to make your life a little easier. Right around 20 weeks before your estimated first frost, you can direct sow bush beans, sweet corn, cucumber, southern peas or cowpeas, squash and winter squash, and pumpkins for your October pumpkin harvest. It's also a great time to start some mini pumpkins like Jack Be Littles and Casperita. Those are so fun to have in the fall. 18 weeks before your first fall frost is time to start fall potatoes if you want to give them a shot. They can be risky in North Texas because sometimes we do have an early frost, but even if the foliage dies back, it is possible that the roots will survive and give you a head start on potatoes in the spring. 15 to 17 weeks is a great time to start Swiss chard, collards, kale, and kohlrabi from seed indoors to be transplanted out 4 to 6 weeks later. Around 16 weeks is the latest you can still safely direct sow bush beans, sweet corn, cucumber, and summer squash. 14 weeks is a good time to transplant your chard and your collards, or you can start direct sowing them around this time as well. Along with carrots, 14 weeks is a great time to sow carrots directly into the soil. Just make sure that they stay moist. I like to direct sow carrots and then cover them with a board or cardboard for about a week to hold the seeds and moisture in place. And then when they germinate, I just remove the cardboard or the board. Also, if you want to start spinach indoors early, 14 weeks is a good time to do that. And 14 weeks also starts the window for planting fall garlic bulbs. They'll actually survive mild winters with no cover for harvest next year. 11 weeks before your first fall frost is when the soil generally starts to cool off. So I'll check to see if the soil has cooled off to 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. And if so, it's the right time to start direct sowing lots of cool-loving veggies like beets, kale, kohlrabi, and spinach, as well as transplant any kale, kohlrabi, or spinach that you started earlier. You can also get away with direct sowing leeks during this time frame as well. During 9 to 11 weeks before your first fall frost, you can start leeks and lettuce. Both of those I've found will survive frost and make it through a mild winter with no cover whatsoever. Also, between 9 and 13 weeks, parsley, mustard, and turnips can be started indoors, and then they can be transplanted out 5 to 8 weeks before your first fall frost. Or you can just direct sow them at 5 to 8 weeks as well. Radishes have such a short turnaround that they can actually be sown weekly, 6 to 10 weeks before your first frost, and you can have a nice succession of radishes. And last but not least, onions. This won't apply to all growing zones, but here in North Texas, I do like to grow my own onion starts from seed, and I'll generally start them in October and November, and I'll transplant them out in January or February. Now, if you found value in this content, I would love it if you would consider liking, subscribing, or sharing it to help us continue to share the joy of growing with others. Drop any questions you have in the comments below and I'll try to answer them, or please add any veggies that I may have missed and I'll update the cheat sheet for you all. And if you have yet to experience the joy of the fall garden, I really hope you'll try it this year. It's a perfect way to enjoy a slower, more relaxed gardening season. I absolutely love everything the fall garden has to offer. I wish you joy, and I'll see you next time.